All right, it's 2 minutes past my 1 minute warning, so good evening, everybody. For those of you who were not here last night for the first night of Fall Town Meeting, my name is Dennis Reap, and I'm the elected town moderator. I hereby call for the reconvening of the adjourned session of Fall Town Meeting of the Town of Boxborough from the last night. Clerk Bob Stemple, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
For all those in, would please stand and face the flag as we do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Bob, and thank you, everybody, for coming. We completed the business of Fall Town Meeting Articles 1 through 4 as of last night. The same rules and procedural motions from last night apply. For those of you who are not here last night and are new to town meeting, starting on page 26 of the warrant, you'll find the town meeting guide with helpful information, including some of the most common motions listed in there. You were also given a one-page handout on Boxborough town meeting process as you walked in. So as stated in the warrant, Article 5 is the first order of business tonight. Motion under Article 5. Planning Board Chair Rebecca Verner, may I have a motion?
I move that the town vote to amend Article 8, Special Districts, and Article 9, Definitions, as set forth in the October 14th, 2025 Fall Town Meeting warrant, and to further amend Article 8 by inserting a new section 8.5.3 titled Definitions to read as follows. Do I need to read the whole thing?
Is it as printed in the warrant or as follows?
As printed in the warrant, thank you.
There's more, you do need to read it.
I do have to read it, okay. 8.5.3 definitions. For purposes of this section 8.5, the following definition shall apply. Multifamily housing, a building with 3 or more residential dwelling units, or 2 or more buildings on the same lot with more than 1 residential dwelling unit in each building, and to authorize the town clerk to renumber the sections that follow the new section 8.5.3 accordingly.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Recommendation and presentation from the Planning Board, please.
The Planning Board recommends unanimously.
And is there a presentation to go with this?
There is,
All
yes,
right.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so MBTA Communities Overlay District.
Point of order, yeah, you can come to the mic, please. Yeah, but wait till you get to the mic so everyone can hear you. And name and address when you get there.
Kathleen Vorse, Liberty Square Road. If we could go back a slide, 8.5.3.
Can you put up the motion?
I think is up there, and it doesn't say anything about definitions. So I'm just questioning either the numbering or whether we need more detail on the additional wording.
That could be a question from the floor when we get to debate and question on the article. We have a motion on the floor. We're getting the presentation and recommendations, and then feel free to ask a question.
But shouldn't the motion read correctly?
Is it? Okay, well.
I thought we were moving this whole section, which has an existing 8.5.3, and if that's a different 8.5.3.
The motion does allow the town clerk at the end, Kathy, to adjust section numbers as needed.
So are we substituting then? That would be my question.
No. What's happening is, as the moderator noted at the first session, what's printed in the warrant can sometimes vary slightly from what's printed in the motion. So the motion is including a specific definition for this new MBTA overlay district of multifamily housing, and it's being inserted as section 8.53, and then the sections that follow that, as noted in the motion, will be renumbered accordingly, so that what's printed in your warrant as 8.53 will become 8.54, and so on and so forth.
Okay, that was confusing to me, even as presented, so thank you for the clarification.
Okay, no more points of order. You may proceed, Rebecca, please.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm just going to jump into the summary. The MBTA Communities Law was passed in January of 2021. What is the MBTA Communities Law? It requires that communities with access to MBTA amenities such as a commuter rail or rapid transit subway, ferry, or bus routes are provided zoning with close proximity to a station. The law applies to all 177 cities and towns, excluding Boston, that have MBTA amenities, to adjacent cities or towns with MBTA amenities. So Boxborough falls into the latter category of being an adjacent small community town. So with that, our deadline to adopt this legislation is December of 2025, which we're coming up on. So the purpose of this law is to address the need for housing in Massachusetts and promote sustainable communities. This article before you tonight establishes a district that will comply with the MBTA Communities Law. So as I mentioned, it's got to be in place by December of 2025, but no construction is actually required out of this. We just need to make a compliant zoning district in town. To prepare for this presentation and compliancy with this zoning bylaw, the town planner, the planning board, and a special advisory group all worked very, very hard to come up and locate a certain site and in the town appropriately. We looked at a number of properties. There were a lot of training opportunities. There was lots of engagement with the public, and 3 public hearings were held by the planning board. So after all of this planning process, the board is now proposing this MBTA Community Overlay District. The overlay district leverages existing multifamily housing. It doesn't change underlying zoning. And it is located within a district that is in very close proximity to the Littleton Station. It's located at the Littleton border, as I mentioned, at the corner of Hill and Leonard Roads. It's currently in a state of multifamily housing with private utilities. The reason for this site selection is obviously its close proximity to the Littleton Station. And the overlay district there, it's close proximity for public water, and there's no impacts on wetlands or undeveloped land or forested lands, which some of the other areas would have been heavily impactful on natural existing conditions. There's no costs associated with this, this article. In fact, it will allow us, when we're in compliance, it'll allow us to access additional grant funding, and then communities that fail to comply also lose access to this essential funding. So the planning board recommends that you vote yes on this Article 5 to bring us into compliance and to gain access to hopefully some additional grant funding opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, recommendation from the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommends this article will ensure the town meets the deadline set by the state to zone for an MBTA Community Overlay District, thus ensuring we will not lose grants from the state. It is regrettable that the resulting overlay zoning Though fulfilling the legal requirements does not necessarily uphold the spirit of the law, we hope that the town, led by the Select Board and the Planning Board, will continue to find ways to add to the Boxborough housing stock.
Recommendation from the Housing Board, please.
The Housing Board recommends 6-0-0. At its meeting of August 27, 2025, members of the Boxborough Housing Board voted unanimously in support of the overlay district proposed in Article 1. While the Housing Board would prefer a recommendation in which more new homes were enabled by right, we appreciate the constraints faced by the Planning Board in terms of bringing the town into compliance with the law. Although the current recommendation meets the letter of the law, only a limited number of new homes have the potential of being created. However, the passage of Article 1 will simplify the construction of new housing units pursuant to any potential rebuild of the Meanmore condominiums that presently occupy the proposed space. If accepted, it will keep our town eligible for state grants. These grants, important to many town departments, will assist the Housing Board with development of an update to our housing production plan, and they will augment our program to preserve the existing affordable housing stock in Boxborough.
Recommendation from the Select Board, please.
The Select Board unanimously recommends this article. Our reasoning is printed in the warrant.
Okay, questions or comments from the floor? Question?
Hi.
Name and address, please.
Right. Griffin Berman, 318 Codman Hill Road. I think I know, at least in part, the answer to this already, but just to clarify, if we put the zoning for MBTA communities at this location, will it be possible and feasible at a later date to either change that or create additional MBTA communities zoning within Boxborough?
Planning Board or Town Planner prepared to answer that?
Yes, at any time, the town can choose to reopen its MBTA community district at this location or otherwise expand the district to include other locations adjacent or elsewhere in the town.
Okay, thank you.
Microphone to my left, please. Name and address.
Owen Neville, 317 Middle Road. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, it appears to me that, well, and it's been stated that we're doing this is getting us into compliance with the law by the end of the year. I believe December 31 is the deadline. But it certainly doesn't get us anywhere into compliance with the spirit of the law, which is, I believe, generally speaking, to increase housing in the greater Boston area, of which we are a part. We're a part of one of those. I thought it was 171 communities. If it's 177, I stand corrected. We're part of that. Our housing, price of our condos, the price of rents, the price of our single-family homes are all affected by the lack of housing. You want to say up, but if we have the next generation that is trying to house themselves, or we're trying to be nice to the people that are moving into the area, or have people stay in the area instead of moving away, we need housing. The last session of the hearing that I attended did include in the draft at the draft zoning, it did include undeveloped areas. I was surprised later on when I heard that, I heard it before the warrant came out, but when you see in the warrant what is actually proposed, it's all either the Meanmore condominium. Now, when they came in, they were apartments. Now, like most everything else, they've been changed to condominiums. That's unlikely to change anytime soon, because my understanding is for a condo association to do anything that radical, it takes a 90% vote of the condo owners. And the 4 apartment buildings out front, those are, each one is individually owned and they rent to people, but I think it looks like they're in nice shape, and I think by the time you got around, it would be unlikely that a substantial number in my opinion, it appears to me that it would be unlikely that a substantial number or even a small number of additional units would go on any of those lots, even if they wiped them out and started from fresh. I'm at the no mic because I think this town meeting should reject this article, and the planning board should return with an article that includes at least some adjacent, some undeveloped land. There are 2 parcels that weren't part of the...
Thank you, Owen.
3 minutes? All right. There are only 7.5 acres total.
Microphone to my right, please. Name and address.
Good evening. My name is Brian Thompson, 7 Osceola Drive. Everything sounds good about this to me. I just noted that assuming the Littleton train station is the relevant MBTA transport, there is no pedestrian access from this location to get there. They've expanded Foster Street and added sidewalks, but I go along that area every day and I see folks actually walking to the Amazon warehouse. There's no associated cost with this, but had anybody thought about building sidewalks to get from this location down to the train station?
Any answer to that?
Yes, so as Chairperson Werner referenced in her presentation, the town, once it becomes compliant, will immediately become accessible to new grant funding specifically for this program. And so it's been our belief from the very beginning that if we comply in a location adjacent to Littleton's district, less than 1 mile away, we would be able to use that new grant funding to bring sidewalks, bike lanes, and other pedestrian amenities from this district to the Littleton station.
Roger that.
Question, Mike, in the middle. Name and address, please.
Bob Stemple, 53 Kendall Road. I have a question for the town planner, if you could address it, please. I understand this is a law. Could you explain what would happen if we don't pass this article tonight, please?
So if we don't pass this article tonight, we will have until December 31st to become compliant. If we fail to meet that deadline, then ultimately we will become ineligible for a variety of grant funding, whether it's Chapter 90 that our DPW relies on for roadway and bridge improvements, our formula funding that the school system relies on to provide for students, even the basic funding that our fire department uses to upgrade their breathing apparatus and other equipment, and of course the many grants that my department relies on to hire consultants and work on behalf of the town. Those that we have in hand will be taken away immediately, and we will be ineligible in future years until such time as we would become compliant.
Great, thank you.
Microphone to my right. Name and address again.
Griffin Verman, 318 Codman Hill Road. It was stated by my neighbor, and then no, Mike, I forget your name, that this article is about creating more, increasing our housing stock. That is not what this article is about. This is about promoting and creating housing stock that is accessible specifically to public transit. So some of the properties that maybe you were looking at might not be as feasible for connecting to our existing MBTA lines. So we have the Littleton station, which is one that's absolutely the closest to us. It is a mile from the selected location. The other MBTA station that we have is South Acton, and of all the sites that were selected, none were as close as this location. So again, the goal of this is not just to create housing, but to create housing and facilitate housing that is accessible to public transportation and can help get people around. So it's more than just about the housing. All right, thank you.
The middle question microphone, name and address, please.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. So I don't know if I'm tired from last night or I'm just not getting it. But the identifiers for the zoning bylaws, based on what's on the screen, is not making sense to me, because it identifies Article 9 as being definitions, yet everything below it has the identifier of 8 point. So is 8.5.3 supposed to be included in the special district, or is that misnumbered and under definition should be 9.5.3?
Alec, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Cheryl, this is specific to the district itself. So 8.5.3 will become a component of just this overlay district. It provides a definition for multifamily housing. If we were to then, if instead we were to place that in Article 9, it would be a town-wide definition. So the change would be on a much larger scale. It would affect the definition of multifamily housing town-wide, as opposed to this approach, which only affects the definition in this district.
Can I have a few follow-ups? I'm sorry.
Yeah, good. Yeah, if it's related to the first question, yes.
Yeah, it is. So this does not impact Article 9 at all?
This definition will not be inserted into Article 9. However, other definitions, as printed in your warrant, will be inserted into Article 9. This definition will only be inserted into the MBTA Communities Overlay District.
But in the warrant, they're all numerated as 8 point. So I love the law, and the numeration is just not making sense to me.
I think I can clarify.
Thank you.
So when you read this motion, the first part of this motion is approving the article as printed in the warrant. When you look at the warrant, once you get past 8.5.10 on page 18, you'll see that it says, and further amend Article 9 definitions, section 9.2, by inserting the following terms and definitions. So those additional terms and definitions are in fact being added to Article 9, but then there's one additional change that the motion is taking care of, that the town planner was just speaking to, which is the new definition of multifamily housing 8.5.3, which will be specific just to the new overlay district.
So then to follow up on the answer given to Kathy, when you reference that the clerk will then renumerate. All right, thank you very much. That clears everything up for me. Thank you.
Okay, microphone to my right. Name and address, please.
John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. I don't see Mary Nowoski here, so I'd like to move the question.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded that we halt debate now and vote. So this is just a vote right now to stop the debate. It takes a 2/3. It's not debatable. All in favor of stopping debate? Raise your green cards. Cards down. All in favor? Not all against, yeah. All right, there's a few. That passes by the 2/3 required. Okay, we're now going to take the vote on the motion on Article 5. All those in favor, raise your green cards. Cards down. All those opposed, raise your green cards. That passes by the majority required. Okay, yeah, it was by a majority of at least 2/3 for the record. Required majority to pass. Motion under Article 6. Ms. Werner, the Planning Board again.
I move that the town vote to amend Article 9, Section 3, subsection 4 of the general bylaws, i.e. the stone walls bylaw, as set forth in the October 14th, 2025 Fall Town Meeting warrant.
Moved and second. Recommendation from the planning board.
Planning board recommends 5-0 unanimously.
Recommendation from the finance committee.
Finance Committee unanimously recommends.
Seeing no one at a microphone. All in favor of the motion under Article 6, raise your green cards. Cards down. All opposed, raise your green cards. That passes by majority. Motion under Article 7. Select Board. Ms. Hilberg.
Hey, we all want to get out of here in like 10 minutes, right? Who's got the mic? Mr. Moderator, I move, wait, let me get the right page. I move that the town vote to establish an appointed Board of Assessors as set forth in the October 14th, 2025 Fall Town Meeting warrant.
Moved and seconded. Recommendation from the Select Board.
I'm going to pass this over to our town administrator, and he'll talk us through it.
Okay, so Select Board Member Wes Folks wrote the recommendation, and it was approved by the board unanimously, 5-0-0. And basically what he wrote was that right now we have a single person who's making decisions on abatements as well as overlay, decisions for the assessor function. What this board would do, a 3-member appointed board of assessors, would be volunteers from the community appointed by the select board to support and work with the professional assessor. So we would still have an assessor or a chief assessor in the assessing department, and then there would be a board much like we have a planning board and a housing board, and these would be residents of town helping with those critical decisions. So it helps to support and balance. And we also got an opinion, as I was requested from the Finance Committee, from our interim assessor. So right now we have a professional assessor who is retired with over 30 years experience working for the town since our assessor left our employ back in early June. And Jim Doherty is his name, and he's been working with us, advising us. And I just want to read a little bit of what he wrote to myself, the Select Board, and the Finance Committee, his impartial advice on this. He said, "The current single assessor is a very unique structure in this state. I've been in this field since the early 1980s, working in numerous communities as a consultant, assessor, as well as a member of a professional board in multiple communities. Typically, most communities, including towns and cities, have a structure which includes a multi-member board supported by a professional staff. Jim says, it is my opinion that a multi-member board is the best structure for a community like Boxborough. The role is guided by state statute, and the primary functions fall in these 3 areas. Ensure the full-time professional appraiser assessor is complying with state guidelines and statutes. The board would also approve abatements and exemptions, sign off on warrants, as well as commitments for taxes to be levied. They should not, in other words, the board, should not be getting deeply involved with the day-to-day functions or micromanaging the staff. That is the role of the full-time professional." So again, the select board recommended this in a vote 5-0-0.
Recommendation from the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee recommends this article unanimously. The Board of Assessors will provide improved oversight over critical financial decisions, which are currently the sole responsibility of the town assessor. A Board of Assessors will provide an additional layer of decision-making support and will provide greater confidence in the town valuation process. Right now, decisions that impact on taxes, specifically the amount of the overlay reserve, can be made by the assessor without any additional oversight or approval by the town or by town meeting. So it's really a one-person operation. So we think, in line with other towns, we should have a Board of Assessors.
All right, we'll go to the floor. Questions, Mike in the middle. Name and address, please.
John Markowitz, 71 Patch Hill Road. I just had a question for the Select Board. It says that the candidates will be selected based on qualifications, experience, and providing more consistent oversight rather. I wonder, are those qualifications and requirements going to be published in advance?
Yes, they would be. And that does not necessarily mean that someone has to be a professional assessor or a retired assessor to do this. The communities that I've worked at typically have people on their board of assessors with some sort of land use experience, either as a planner, an appraiser, an assessor, something in the real estate market, and generally they look for diversity amongst the members. So you wouldn't necessarily have 3 realtors or 3 assessors. And I've also seen boards that are comprised of just a member at large, someone who may have no land use experience, but you do want to have some, and there's also some required training for people who go onto this board, and that's state-provided training to get them up to speed with what it will be that they're voting on and recommending.
Thank you very much, Mike.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Nick's in line for questions. Name and address for the record, please.
Steve Jeffries, 286 Sergeant Road. So a quick question about how it works in practice. So if you've got the assessor and you've got a board of 3, if the assessor says X and then the board is split 2 to 1 versus, for Y, is that a tie or does the board always win?
That's a great question. That would not be a tie. So it would be the 3 members on the board who are voting. So similar to myself supporting the select board, I come with professional experience and recommendations for them. But if the board votes, let's say 3-2, 5-0, whatever, it's their vote that counts. I'm just there to advise them. Similarly, the assessor, the professional assessor, would come in, give information and updates to the Board of Assessors, and then they would make their vote, whether it's 2-1, 3-0, their vote carries. The assessor wouldn't get a vote on things like that. The chief assessor or the professional staff would manage the day-to-day operations and again advise the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question in the middle, name and address, please.
Hi, Cindy Markowitz, 99 Meadow Lane. I guess it would be helpful to understand which decisions the board is going to sort of have oversight of. There was mention of an overlay reserve. There's mention of valuations. Can you maybe expand a little bit about what does the assessor do? Which decisions would be brought to a board for oversight?
Sure. There are 3 main things that the board would be voting on. They'd be voting on exemptions, abatements, as well as overlay reserve. In other words, how much to put into the overlay, as well as what monies can be taken out of the overlay and put back into the general fund. Those would be the main voting articles for the Board of Assessors.
So could you expand a little bit on the abatement process? Does the board, as I understand it now, an abatement's filed with the assessor makes the determination. If that determination gets appealed, it goes to the state board. This would be another layer in that process?
So in this case, right now, because we have no Board of Assessors, the 1 professional staff, actually there are 2 staff. There's an assessor and there's an administrative assistant for the staff. But the 1 professional assessor in that department is acting as the Board of Assessors. This 3-member board would replace that board function of the professional staff, and then the professional staff would oversee day-to-day operations and make recommendations, but the votes on abatements, that would be solely the jurisdiction of the 3-member board. And then if there was an appeal, so the professional staff would bring that to the board, and typically they would meet monthly. The board would vote, and then if the applicant disagrees and wants to appeal to the state, they would do that, just like they can appeal to the state now, but it would be the 3-member board replacing that decision authority of the professional staff.
Do I have time for one more follow-up? Does the board have any say over valuations on property that the assessor, I assume, makes those determinations? Would this board have any say over the valuations?
I don't believe so. No, that's So most of the valuations are done by consultants. So we have a number of consultants. There are some that do commercial valuations, and then there are some that do residential valuations, and those come to the professional staff, and then the staff evaluates those looks and see if what they're getting back for data makes sense, and any that don't, they'll go back and value those themselves. It's not really the job of the board to do those valuations. In the past, I think prior to 1985, Boxborough had a 3-member board of assessors and no professional staff. In that case, the board was doing the valuations. That's no longer a practice that I'm aware of in Massachusetts. So there are some operating like Boxborough does today with just professional staff, and I think there are only 13 communities in Massachusetts that operate the way that Boxborough does, and all the rest have both professional staff and a board. So we're actually in the minority, and in my opinion, as well as our interim assessor's opinion, we're a little behind the times in operating within municipal best practices for assessing.
Okay, next in line at the questions, we got the one question and one follow-up rule for the questions, Mike. Thank you.
Michael Toops, 118 Pine Hill Road. I'm trying to remember, was at one point in the ancient past, Boxborough's assessor actually elected? And the follow-up question to that is the board, why an appointed board as opposed to an elected board? Over.
I don't know if it was elected or appointed back prior to 1985. I know that's
point of order. Owen Neville might be an expert or at least knowledgeable on the topic.
When we had a board of assessors, they were elected.
Everybody heard that, right? Board of assessors, when we had them, were elected.
Thank you, Owen.
Next in line at the questions, Mike. Name and address.
Dick Wagman, 86 Leonard Road. I have repeatedly heard the word overlay used in the context of all of this stuff. Could somebody please explain to me, in the context of this, what exactly is an overlay? What does it do? And how do things get overlaid and unoverlaid? And what does that mean, please?
We'll go to the Finance Committee for that one.
So the overlay reserve is a reserve that the assessor takes money out of the budget each year and put into reserve for paying any abatements that become due. So the assessor has to determine what they think the abatements might be for the coming year, and it's also used sometimes to. So there's some rules around it the state sets, but basically it's up to the assessor what they actually, how much they actually take. Right now, we have a very large overlay reserve that's built up that, in the opinion of the Finance Committee, is actually too high. So we've been taxed on that money up to now, and it's just sitting there doing nothing, basically. So the idea is we want to get to a position where we can actually reduce that overlay reserve and reduce taxes going forward in the future.
I guess I think that the concept of having a reserve for abatements makes good sense. I guess I'm more just perplexed by the word overlay, but I guess that was a good explanation. Thank you.
Next in line at the questions, name and address, please.
Walter Van Rogen, 113 Patch Hill. Can the professional assessor be appointed to the Board of Assessors?
Want to try that, Mike?
No, that would be separate duties.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Kathleen Vorst, Liberty Square Road. My recollection was when we had a 3-member board, they did all the valuations. Now we come forward and I'm hearing that even though we have a single assessor, we have an outside consulting do the valuations. Can you give us some idea of what the compensation package for the assessing operation is going to look like with a board of 3 plus an assessor and outside consulting? Just if we're authorizing this, what are we subscribing to be financing?
Sure, I can't give you a dollar value, but I can tell you that it won't change from what it is already, because the appointed Board of Assessors, they're not paid for that function. So what we pay to the consultants would remain the same, other than whatever the typical escalation per year is. And then same with the salary for the professional staff, it would be much the same as it is, other than what your incremental annual changes are.
Does the Finance Committee have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so one of this all started, this situation at town meeting. If you recall, there were some questions were asked about the size of the overlay reserve and the amount of money being taken for the consultant that does the assessments. So the Finance Committee looked into this a little bit and asked questions of the then assessor and didn't really get satisfactory answers. So that's why we've actually, we initiated this idea of having a Board of Assessors to remedy that. There was, we're in a situation right now where we have too large an overlay reserve, we think, and money could be turned back to free cash, and too much money's been taken for the professional assessment that's done in town, which is separate to the actual assessor. This is actually a consultant that's here to actually do his assessment. So money was taken by the assessor for that and overestimated, basically, and we've got a big reserve of money that's not being used. So what we're trying to do is get back to a situation where we can reduce that money and that money that's being held, return it to free cash, and use it to help reduce taxes ultimately.
Seeing no one at a microphone. All in favor of the motion under Article 7, raise your cards. Cards down. All opposed, raise your cards. That carries by wide majority and passes. Motion under Article 8, Select Board.
I move that the town vote to amend Article 1, Section 1 of the general bylaws as set forth in the October 14th, 2025 fall town meeting. For fall town warrant.
Is there moved and seconded? Recommendation from the Select Board.
The Select Board unanimously recommends this. We're looking for the flexibility to alter the dates and on a year-by-year basis.
Recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends.
Questions from the floor. Microphone to my left. Name and address, please.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Owen Neville, 317 Middle Road. I'll watch the clock this time. One of the only things we can count on, since they moved it to May from February, is that the annual town meeting is when the bylaw says it is, and the election was always the following Monday. A few years ago, we made it the following Tuesday. People were confused of an election day on a Monday, but it's been the same since then, and you can count on it. When you're planning anything else, you know that if it has to happen this time, you're going to miss town meeting. If you're trying to stay involved with town government, then you reserve that time. I'm told that this room is not available when our spring town meeting would be scheduled if the bylaw stays the same. Last night in this room, we had a topic that drew about everybody that was going to come out. It drew a big crowd. I'm told it drew 411 registered voters here. Last spring at the special within the annual, we had a question that drew a big crowd as well. The yeas plus the nays on that vote in the special as part of the article in the gymnasium at Blanchard was 428. And as has been considered in the past, conditions can always be made for an overflow room. One of the things that the town wisely did when we gave the school to the school district was ensured that we could always have our town meeting in the school. Together with the way I started, that if we can, it's one thing we can reliably stand on, is that town meeting will begin on the second Monday and the election will be the following Tuesday. Granted, it's easier to vote now, vote absent or vote early, all that kind of stuff, so the polls is not that big a deal. But annual town meeting should be when every year at the same time. I respect the moderator's, if it was his choice to try and get us into this place, but we did really well last spring at the annual and the special within the annual. I ask that we not change this. Thank you very much.
Microphone to my right, name and address, please.
Cheryl Mahoney, 188 Liberty Square Road. I respect Owen a lot. He has a pool of knowledge that is unbelievable. However, as someone that participated in preparation for town meeting, my heart goes out to everyone in the front of this room trying to get it all together. But logistically, I just want to point out in the last 10 years, we've had at least 2 significant educational district votes, which had to be held separately from the votes taken in Acton because of this bylaw requirement of us having our town meeting at a separate date. It was said at the time during the district vote and during the Minuteman votes that would have been more effective if the towns held these actions on the same night as opposed to holding them on different nights. And I just want to point out the logistics of being able to make that a much more efficient bureaucratic process. Thank you.
Microphone to my right again, name and address.
Leah Woofsy, 48 Whitcomb Road. I'm in support of this and hope that if this passes, we could also consider dates potentially on a Saturday or not at 7 o'clock at night so that parents of young children could more easily attend.
All right. Microphone to my right again, name and address for the record.
Kristen Hilberg, 1112 Hill Road, actually speaking as the chair of the select board. I just want to give a little more explanation about this, and I am speaking at the moderator because that's what I'm supposed to do. So the select board felt strongly that we needed to have a larger space than Blanchard. Partly those blue chairs are evil, and we would lose people at 8:30 or 9 o'clock because it hurt. So enjoy the chairs that the Regency has provided for us. The other piece of it is that we've got a major, major decision to be made this year at our annual town meeting. And as much as we would like to have kept it on the same date as usual, we wanted to have everybody in one room, not in an overflow space, because I think people like Mary Berlin can speak to what it's like if you don't fit in the gym at Blanchard and you have to be in the library. You don't really feel part of it. There's a disconnect. Yes, we have the AV equipment to manage it, but it's not seamless. And if you want to speak or have an opinion, it's much harder to do. So the select board thought, why not have it in a larger space? We approached the Regency, and they very graciously offered us some dates that were available. These rooms are typically booked up years in advance. You know, we know about all the different conferences they have here. But regardless, we wanted to all be in one space, as one community, having one discussion, and then ultimately getting to a vote. And like I said, with the budget constraints that we have coming up, we've got to build a fire station. We may or may not be looking at an override. We really wanted to be in one place at a date that we could all be here together. We do hear you about the Saturdays. We have broached that before, and it was somewhat lukewarm in terms of its reception. We've talked about changing up how we do it. Somebody even asked if we could start doing Zoom town meetings. I don't know if that's ever going to be possible, but is it possible to do a hybrid town meeting? And I don't know if we'll head in that direction. But I do want you to know that we have considered all of this.
Let's see, microphone to my left, name and address, please.
Thank you, Becky Neville, Middle Road. I just have a question because you keep talking about the Regency so graciously doing this. Is this room free when we use it?
You're at a no mic. That's not the question.
I'm asking, I can ask a question for no mic. I heard that from the moderator last night.
Correct.
What I want to know is this from free when we use it, or are they just giving us a break on it?
No, they gave it to us at cost,
Okay, and what's cost?
$6,000.
A night?
No, for the town meeting.
For like the 2 nights,
Yeah,
$6,000?
for the-
Okay, so how are you funding this meeting?
We will be using the town hall budget, and if we aren't able to move things around, we will be asking the finance committee for a reserve fund transfer, but not until we absolutely need it.
Okay, because it's not an emergency. And it's not unexpected, so I don't think it actually qualifies for a reserve fund transfer. My other thinking is would they give it to you for less money, if they could set up a bar out back, because that might be the one way to make this reasonable. If you could have a bar at the back and we could guarantee them a certain amount of money, maybe they would cut the cost for you.
Y'all bring your
All
licenses.
right, we're drifting past the 4 corners on this one, Becky.
I'm just trying to find a way to reduce the cost, Dennis.
Julie, maybe we could all come before town meeting and drink? I don't know.
Okay, I thought we had someone at the microphone, but at the center, but seeing no one at a microphone. All in favor of the motion under Article 8, raise your cards. Cards down, all opposed, raise your cards. That passes by majority. Ms. Hilberg, could I have a motion to dissolve the October 14th, 2025 Boxborough Fall Town Meeting?
Mr. Moderator, I move to dissolve the fall town meeting.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Seeing no one at a microphone, all in favor, raise your green card, say aye at the same time. All opposed? That carries by majority. Thank you for coming to this fall meeting and for your careful attention. Well done, everyone.